Thank you for joining us for this Local Decision 2016 candidate debate. I'm your moderator, Ben Hale, and I'm joined by the candidates running for Minnesota House in District 38A, Democrat Kevin Fogarty and Republican Representative Linda Runbeck. Thank you both for being here tonight. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Our debate tonight is going to start with opening statements. After that, we'll go into a question and answer segment. Then the candidates will have a chance, if they choose, to ask each other one question. We'll finish up tonight with closing statements. We're going to start with our opening statements now. Kevin, you're in the first chair, so you have the first opportunity with a 1-minute opening statement.
Thank you for the invitation and the opportunity for Representative Linda Runbeck and myself to express our views. My name is Kevin Fogarty. I am a truck driver. I'm a father and grandfather, a longtime Democrat, and a proud union member of Teamsters 120. As a truck driver, I have witnessed what poor road repair and delayed construction can cost, and I've also seen what a world-class transportation can save. Minnesota's economy needs to keep moving on a world-class transportation system. As a father, I will fight for adequate funding for our schools so that every Minnesota student has the chance to be the best in the world. As a grandfather, I would like to see a further commitment to renewable energies so that our grandchildren can have a better planet.
Thank you for your opening statement. Representative Runbeck, you're next with your 1-minute opening statement.
Thank you. My name is Linda Runbeck, and I'm the incumbent state representative in District 38A, and that includes the cities of Centerville, Circle Pines, Lino Lakes, Lexington, parts of Blaine, and about half of Hugo. Wonderful communities, and I've enjoyed representing them for the last, for the last 6 years. I've actually been in office for about 18 years, separated by 10 years when I was not in office. Never thought I'd come back, but there were opportunities in 2010, and so I have kind of resumed my legislative career. Prior to that, I was in the private sector and became a director and VP of marketing and advertising for a couple of companies. My family owns a small little business, so we've had that experience as well, and I feel strongly about representing small business in the legislature. We've lived in Circle Pines for 40 years, and our daughter is a graduate of Centennial Schools. So it's, again, very proud to represent the area and very proud of our schools. We have Centennial and White Bear Lake, which are really award-winning schools, and they're fantastic, and we know that. So very happy to be here tonight.
Thank you. Now we're going to move into our question and answer segment. And for the first question, Representative Runbeck, you'll be first on this question. The first question deals with taxes. Representative Runbeck, what's one specific change you would like to see made to the Minnesota tax code?
We've had a number of layers of taxes that have been added in the last few years, and one of them, I think, is really a detriment to a strong economy and to the businesses that operate in Minnesota. It's called the statewide general tax, and it's really a fourth tier of property tax that affects all of our businesses, even the very smallest ones. We were successful in putting that into the tax bill this past year as a beginning effort to phase that out so that we become a more competitive state. And unfortunately, the tax bill doesn't appear to be going to pass. So it's very unfortunate. We think we cleared the way for that to happen, but it's a tax that we should not have imposed in the first place, and I think is an impediment to job growth in our state.
Thank you for your answer. Kevin, same question to you now. What is one specific change you would like to see made to the Minnesota tax code?
Well, being as a first-time candidate, I don't have the ins and outs of what's been going on, recently. The tax code, I'm actually proud of the fourth tier tax increase that Mark Dayton added to the taxes, and that allowed us to improve our schools and took a deficit to the other side and made a positive out of it. So I don't have anything.
Okay. Opportunity for rebuttal time will be offered after every question. It's your choice if you choose to use it. You have 15 seconds if you want it. Representative Runbeck, do you have any?
No, thanks.
Okay. And I'll always offer it to both candidates. Okay.
No, thanks.
Next question, we're going to continue talking about money. We're going to talk about the overall state budget at this time. Kevin Fogarty, you'll be first on this question. As a state legislator, you are often inundated with requests for funding. Cities, counties, organizations all want some slice of the pie in the state budget, but there's only so much to go around and there's only so much to be spent. How will you prioritize when it comes to what gets money, what gets funding, and how you spend the overall state budget? How will you work through those requests and prioritize what gets funded?
Well, everything comes down to the democratic process, and the funding requests need strong backing from large groups, and it's depending on the democratic process mainly, and relying on the other entities of government to propose and make strong recommendations.
Thank you for your answer. Linda, same question to you now. How do you prioritize all those requests for different state dollars, but still coming out with a balanced budget at the end, knowing that there's never enough for all the requests? How do you prioritize budgeting?
Sure. I think we have to define the role of government, and to me, it is that government must provide and fund things that are public goods. A public good is a road, a bridge, a library, a park. That's really the fundamental role for government. Also, we have really now, I think, realized that the public welfare is a system we have to fund, as well as public safety, and education as well. So there's some major funding areas. And there's no dispute about getting funding for those. But I think when it becomes more discretionary, we have to think about the future. We have to think about what are those public goods that we must continue to maintain and repair. We just heard today that there's about $12 billion anticipated nut of water infrastructure that our state is going to have to repair and replace in the next few years, because many of these are now 70 and 80 years old and are not going to survive. So I think we have some very serious sort of long-term unfunded obligations. No one has thought about where this money's coming from. We need to start factoring that into the other decisions and the other pots that we are putting money into. So that, how we do that, I don't know, because it's not a process that is defined yet in current state government.
Thank you both for your answers. Would anybody like rebuttal time for that question?
No.
Seeing none. Let's move on to a question about bonding. Representative Runbeck, do you want to see a bonding bill passed in 2017? And if so, how much should be spent?
And I had a great opportunity for the first time to sit on the bonding committee this past year. And a great bonding bill was produced. Unfortunately, again, it ran into some difficulties at the legislature because of Southwest Light Rail. No, I'm very hopeful that actually after the November election, before all that dust settles on this particular year, that we'll be able to pass that bill, because it has really fundamental and basic and critical infrastructure funding for roads, bridges, water infrastructure, and the like. So I'm just hopeful that we're not going to throw the whole thing out, because a lot of these issues are very, it's essential needs, and people are desperate, I guess, to have some of these things funded. And it really can't afford to wait, and be put off. So that's really where I am on bonding, and hopefully we'll get to it this year so that progress can be made.
And you think the dollar amount of that bill was a good dollar amount for when it comes to bonding?
It was 1.1 billion, I believe, wasn't it? 1 billion, anyway. Mm-hmm. And there certainly are things that people wanted that weren't included. I think we were close to negotiating some additions to that the governor wanted, namely a building for the University of Minnesota. It was a wonderful bill. Actually, I think it was passed. It was passed in a slightly different form in the Senate earlier, and the House passed it by 91 votes. So with 91 votes, I should say. So it's good.
Thank you. Kevin, same question to you. Do you want to see a bonding bill passed in 2017? And if so, how much should be spent?
Yes, we definitely need a bonding bill passed. We can't be putting it off again. As to the amount, it was proposed by, the governor had his spending bills, and the House proposed theirs and the Senate is, and there was no meshing of the ideas and stuff. And basically they just took the governor's proposal and cut it in half and said that was a good bill. And no, it's not a good bill, and we need a lot of things done. And yes, we need a bonding bill passed.
So would you go for more than the 1 billion if
Yes.
you had your,
Yes.
okay, all right. Anybody want rebuttal time after this round?
Well, I don't think we need to spend any time on it necessarily, but there were a lot of a lot of games being played at the end of the session, which, ended up sort of torpedoing a number of good ideas, and that isn't the kind of thing we like to see from either party.
Thank you. All right, we'll move on to the next question then, if everyone's ready. This question dealing with healthcare. Kevin, you'll be first on this question. In what ways, this is a 3-part question, just so you know. In what ways has MNsure been a success? In what ways has MNsure been a failure? And how would you change MNsure? Kevin, you're up first.
Success. We have added Minnesota citizens to the insurance rolls, and they have insurance now. That's the main success. What I would change is really hard. It's got a good structure to it. The MNsure does. There are many changes. There's many sufferings going on, and there's pushback from the insurance industries, and changes are many. And the third part of the question was again?
It was successes, failures, and changes.
Yeah, changes. Frankly, I have no.
Okay.
I couldn't suggest a change.
Okay. Same question now to you, Representative Rumbeck. In what ways has MNsure been a success? In what ways has MNsure been a failure? And how would you change MNsure?
It's hard to really think of how it's been a success. Certainly, I go back to what Minnesota had before we had the Obamacare MNsure situation here in Minnesota, and we had 93% of Minnesotans were covered with health care. We had Minnesota Care, which was for the working poor that were unable to fund it through their own incomes. We had a really good system. We had MCHA, which was a program for those people with chronic illnesses that were extremely costly, where they weren't able to get coverage, under a normal plan. So we had all the pieces. Minnesota should never have bought into Obamacare and MNsure, because we left something that was very good, and now we have kind of a mess on our hands. 250,000 people were told they couldn't have the insurance that they were used to. Honestly, the frustrations over the last few years of simply getting basic policies, in place, getting changes made to those, has really, I think, made people very aware. This might be a good thing. Maybe made people aware of just why you don't want government to actually be in the middle of delivering a very complicated product that everybody needs. As far as changes, obviously, I think we need to make certain there's more oversight. We need to probably reduce the cost of overhead, and we need to make the thing a lot more user-friendly.
Thank you. Anybody need rebuttal time after that question?
No.
Okay. Next question, Representative Rumbeck. This question deals with public safety, and you'll be first on this question. It's clear both nationally and locally that tension is high between segments of the law enforcement community and minority communities. How will you, as a state legislator, work to create an environment to address these issues? You would be first on this one, Representative Rumbeck.
Yeah, it's a sad situation that we find ourselves in. I don't think, based on what we see in other states as well as our own, that we have any sort of process by which we we deal with situations like this. So I think we're going to have to, first of all, put together sort of a protocol, you know, having to do, of course, with the body cams and how that's going to be released, who has access to that information. How do we, you know, put people together that have been in the situations and then work, you know, going forward to make sure that there are good relations between citizens and cops. And I think, first of all, we have to start with the basic confirmation that we don't think that cops are there to hurt people, that they are there for the public good. They're there to help folks. They are not, you know, they are not profiling. That is not, for the most part, I don't think. You may find one or two that are bad apples because they're bad apples, but for the most part, our cops are fine folks, and we need to stand by them because, you know, law and order and public safety is number one. We can't have mayhem. You can't have situations where people are standing and blocking major freeways and throwing bricks and blocks and hurting folks. So it's going to take a real community effort.
Thank you for your answer. Kevin Fogarty, same question to you. It's clear both nationally and locally that tension is high between segments of the law enforcement community and minority communities. As a state legislator, how would you work to create an environment to address these issues?
Yes, well, we have asked a lot of our police force, and I have seen a certain culture evolving, and it seems to be more militaristic, and I believe that needs to be changed, and it won't happen overnight. It's got to take over time, but the culture of the police force has got to simmer down a little bit, take a little more time, and serve and protect, and not be preemptive. So that's...
Okay. Anybody need rebuttal time after that question?
No.
Okay. Next question, Kevin, you'll be first on this question, dealing with education. Do you support increased access to pre-K education in Minnesota?
Simple answer, yes.
Would you like to expand on that at all?
No,
Okay.
it's just yes. Yeah, full steam ahead.
Okay. Representative Runbeck, do you support increased access to pre-K education in Minnesota?
I look at it as the kind of thing where we need to benefit families where there isn't the resources available. I mean, I think what we're seeing is that all young children have exposure to so much more and so much earlier these days. They do seem to be growing up faster, and so I can understand why there's an interest in it. But my issue is that we would want to do that on sort of an income-based, need-based scale, so that there are programs available for families that need that and involvement. So they become a very voluntary thing, and families can sign up if they wish to. I don't know that you would necessarily require the public schools to offer that, because we have a full array of private sector, nonprofits, and so on that are offering wonderful pre-K and preschool environments for children, and that may serve those children better. So I think the one-size-fits-all is a real issue. And I think that, you know, I don't know if we know what the cost will be, but I think that's a consideration. I also think that there's a growing information out there that the public schools are interested in having children from 0 to 5. And I've seen that in the Edina School District information. So how far do we want to go with that?
Okay. Thank you both. Anyone need rebuttal time after that? Does not appear so. We'll move on to a question about transportation next. Representative Runbeck, you're first on this question. How do you propose to solve Minnesota's long-term transportation infrastructure needs?
Yes, we do have long-term infrastructure needs, and transportation is extremely important. And we have been, given a proposal by the governor to raise $11 billion over the next 10 years. That's his view of what's needed. And of that, 25% was going to be for transit in the Twin Cities, most of which is rail right now. That money was not necessarily going for buses. So the fact that we have coupled transit with transportation, I think, is very difficult. We need to, I think, decouple it. Let's look at our transit needs. What kind of funding is needed? What kind of operating subsidies are required to do a full-scale bus or a full-scale light rail system? So let's separate them to the two first of all. But I think that we have to know, kind of going forward, what needs to be done and what it's going to cost. Minnesota is unique in that we don't fund any of our current transportation from the general fund. I believe we should. Most states, about 33 states, I think, fund at least 5% of their transportation from general fund monies. And we can certainly afford to do that. That is what the Republicans proposed to do in the last budget, and the governor wasn't interested.
Thank you for your answer. Kevin Fogarty, same question. How do you propose to solve Minnesota's long-term transportation infrastructure needs?
Well, I'm hoping that technology can help out in this situation. As a truck driver and working with my dispatch, they know every single move I make. They know how long I was on a particular road. This data could be made available, and try a user fees or something like that. With our car cafes standards going up, we're getting less revenue from our tax consumption. So yeah, we need to come up with some long-term needs. And as far as paying off of a general fund, I look at it as like a homeowner. A homeowner wouldn't repair a roof out of its grocery fund money. You would have to bond for that. You'd have to get a loan. So any long-term structural additions to the state and stuff should be coming from bonding or user fees or other revenue sources.
Thank you for your answer. Would anyone like rebuttal time?
Well, just quickly, I'd like to say that actually the funding from our Federal Highway Transit Fund is increasing. Now, maybe not as much as people had hoped to see, but we got through the recession when folks weren't driving, and now they're back driving again, and they have more affluence, and there's more cars on the road, and so on. So the increasing amount available is there.
Okay. Did you have anything else to add, Kevin?
No.
Okay. A couple more questions from me. Next one, let's see, Kevin, you'll be first on this question. Back to education again. Are there practical solutions that you would propose to close Minnesota's persistent achievement gap?
The achievement gap is drastic here in Minnesota, and a lot of talk is about giving more freedom, more leverage, more opportunities for different programs and stuff that a teacher or an administrator could try. I think it's more of a holistic problem, and that coming to school with a good breakfast, having time at home after school that's supervised up. It's a whole picture that needs to be looked at in trying to improve the education. And there are going to be communities that need more help than other communities because they're not able to receive it from their parents. It's difficult, and so it can't be a one-size-fit-all, and you're going to have different budgets for different districts.
Thank you for your answer. Linda, same question to you now. Are there practical solutions that you would propose to close Minnesota's persistent achievement gap?
I would look at two things. We know that attendance is really an early indicator of whether a student is going to succeed or fail in school. And we have many children who are absent more than 15 days from the classroom. It is the single greatest factor, in failing in school. So we do need to find ways to address and to help families where there's either too much mobility, too much instability to get their kids to school. That would be one thing to look at and make sure the child is in the classroom. And secondly, I think we have to start identifying earlier the problems. I mean, the reading difficulties can be identified fairly early, and let's not wait, until the 3rd grade or the 4th grade to say, we've got a problem here. And I think we can afford to spend some significant dollars in that regard, because it is so important to be successful early in both reading and math. So those two commitments, I think, would be interesting to see more effort and more money spent on.
Thank you both. Anybody need rebuttal time?
Oh, thank you.
Okay. Next question from me. Linda, you'll be first on this question. Do you support Sunday liquor sales?
I do, actually. It's not a tradition in Minnesota. There are certainly groups of people that don't want to see Sunday liquor sales, and I do understand that. But I do think that state should not be in the middle of deciding when a business is open and what hours it is available. It seems to me that's an area that should be open to, what customer preference and what is probably happening competitively in other states. So to me, it's an area that we've too long tried to have the state be the arbiter and the regulator, and it's just really not necessary. And there's good reasons for a lot of people, who say, I just may need that available on a Sunday. Something's come up. So, yeah, I don't think the state needs to be involved in regulating it.
Thank you for your answer. Kevin, same question to you. Do you support Sunday liquor sales?
No, again, simple answer, yes. And this particular opinion of mine is in direct opposition to my union. But no, I support Sunday liquor sales.
Thank you both. I don't think there'll be any need for rebuttal time there, as we agreed. Last question from me. This is a question we are asking to every candidate that we talk to this fall. All of them will hear this question from me. And Kevin, you'll be first on this question. Across America, we are seeing deep divisions among races, ages, religions, socioeconomic classes, and political parties. How will you work to foster a spirit of unity, both at the legislature and in your own community? Kevin, you're first.
Wow, there's a lot to chew on there. Openness, communication, that's all I got.
Okay.
Just more openness and allow more communication.
Okay. Linda, same question to you now. Across America, we are seeing deep divisions between races, ages, religions, socioeconomic classes, and political parties. How will you work to foster a spirit of unity, both in the legislature and in your own community?
I think people, when they have an opportunity and can sit down, and maybe it has to be structured, maybe it's, it probably isn't be a top-down situation where government says, okay, get together people and play nice and figure out how to work together. But there are some nonprofit efforts to bring legislators together, I know, and put them in a room and go, here's a problem, let's work on it. And I honestly think that if you can sit face to face in an environment where you need to come up with a solution, I think it can happen. So there needs to be more of that opportunity. whether it happens on the community level or at the church level. And I guess I believe that it is happening. I mean, I think that many people are distressed that we can't get to the bottom of some of the issues that we face. Some of the changes that are needed are coming through sort of referendum and initiatives, some of the ballot questions that are put upon states. They don't happen here very often, but people then realize they've got to really understand the issue. They've got to get to the bottom of it. That might be one way that could happen on a more structured basis in Minnesota.
Thank you both for your answers to that question. We're now going to move to an opportunity that you have, if you so choose to use it, to ask your opponent a question. Kevin, you have the first opportunity to ask a question to Representative Rumbeck.
No, thank you. I won't use
Okay.
that option.
And Representative Rumbeck, you have an opportunity to ask a question of your opponent if you choose.
I guess I will decline.
Okay. Well, then we're going to move right into closing statements in our debate today. Kevin, you are first with your closing statement, and you have 1 minute.
Well, thank you for this. It's quite a learning experience for me being a first-time candidate. I tried preparing for this as best I could, but I feel my performance has been pretty sad. I do want to represent the people of District 38A. I think my work ethics and my ability to learn on my feet is qualifies me for this job. And I just thank the voters for the opportunity to try and get the House of Representatives. Thank you.
Thank you for coming in this evening. Representative Rumbeck, you're next with your closing statement.
Well, I really have, again, appreciated and have been honored to be the state representative in this region. Really fine people. I've enjoyed so many of the folks that I've met and been able to work with over the years. But compared with 20 years ago when I was in the House back then, the issues have become so much more complicated, so much more intractable, really difficult finding, where the middle ground is and where the common ground is. And I think we face some very serious issues. I think I can say that, we're not creating jobs the way we used to in Minnesota. We have tremendous unfunded liabilities with unfunded pensions, unfunded obligations for replacing infrastructure, looming costs that nobody really knows exactly where they're coming from. So it's important, I think, to have that, the perspective that I bring, the background that I bring, and the knowledge of how government has worked over the years. And I do hope I can have a chance to serve again.
Thank you. Thank you both for taking the time to come in here and have this debate with us, and we do appreciate that. So thank you again. And I want to thank all of you for watching this Local Decision 2016 candidate debate here on North Metro TV. This has been the race for Minnesota House of Representatives in 38A, the candidates Democrat Kevin Fogarty and Republican Representative Linda Rumbeck. I've been your moderator, Ben Hale. Thank you for watching.